On today's show, no Jabari Smith Jr., no Alperen Sengun, no Eric Gordon, no problem as the Houston Rockets take care of business in their second preseason game, knocking off the Toronto Raptors 116-100. Jalen Green was electric. Tari Eason drops another 20-point performance, is phenomenal off the Houston Rockets bench. All that and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as Rockets Watch. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin. The show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. Joining us now to recap the Rockets' second preseason win for the 2022-2023 campaign is none other than Raj Nair at Reezy Season on Twitter. My guy Reezy, this was a fantastic game if you're a Houston Rockets fan, because look, they were missing Jabari Smith Jr., their third overall pick, missing their starting center in Alperen Sengun, missing the veteran, the grizzled vet of the bunch in Eric Gordon, and that's three starters that they were down, and yet they come out on top against the Toronto Raptors. A really impressive performance from this young group of guys.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a good little revenge game for breaking Jalen's streak last year, and that's a tough team to play against. The Raptors, they've got, it feels like 1 through 15, 6'8" guys who can defend and shoot threes, but not tonight apparently.
Yeah, I mean, final score 116-100. I mean, it wasn't a blowout per se. The final score probably gives it, a different picture of the game than actually how it felt. But the Rockets felt like they were in control for the majority of this game. It really felt like kind of a back and forth first quarter where there were some moments, especially early in that second quarter, where the first kind of, group, the bench unit, right? The Daishen Nix, Josh Christopher, Garuba, that group of guys checking off the bench kind of let go of the rope a little bit. And it kind of felt like, maybe the Raptors are getting ready to kind of, pull away, come away with the game here a little bit. But then the starters checked back in, kind of took back control of the game. But the guy who, I want to talk about here first and foremost is Jalen Green, Raj, because Jalen was fantastic in this game, came out aggressive, came out looking to score the ball at a high level. And there were so many plays in this game where it's tough because some of the plays were broken, bad plays, right? Jalen Green's talent just absolutely bailed out the Rockets a lot in this game. There were, he had, 2 or 3, I think, separate occasions, pull-up threes with, no time left on the shot clock and just drilled them in this one.
Yeah, I think those plays sort of epitomized his performance overall, where he was sort of that escape valve for a lot of the other guys. He was definitely, throwing up some threes that I was like, oh, it's end of the shot clock. He's just getting the shot up, drained it, drilled it, like nothing but net, which is crazy to see from a guy who is 20 years old. And, we know he's been working on his shot. That last game against the Spurs, he didn't shoot so well. It was really nice to see him start to find that flow again. And he just started nailing them. And it looked like that unstoppable Jalen again from the end of the last season.
Yeah, a very, an electric performance from Jalen Green, kind of picking up, we can't say picking up right where he left off because he did have a bit of a clunker against the Spurs, but 23 points on 7 of 16 shooting, 4 of 9 from long range, 5 of 5 at the charity stripe, which I think is big for him.
Appreciated.
Getting to the free throw line is going to be a huge part of taking his game to the next level this season. So for him to have that opportunity to be aggressive, to get to the rim, to draw those fouls, and then to convert at the free throw line at a high rate. Again, shooting, knocking down all 5 of your free throws, that's big. He also had 4 rebounds, 2 assists to go along with it. But a really good all-around game from Jalen. He was scoring at all 3 levels. Again, he had some just ridiculous... dude, when he hit it was the first bailout 3 that he hit at the top of the key, where he was, driving towards the right wing, and he pulls up, and he basically has 2 defenders in front of him. He's got his primary defender, and there was one other guy. Yeah, basically a double team. Raj, it felt very T-Mac-esque from the 13 and 35 moment, because there was that 1-3 that Tracy McGrady hit where he elevated over Bruce Bowen and was like leaning and contorting midair. And when you go back and look at the replay of Jalen, he is so off balance when he's hitting that 3. He's at like a 45-degree angle when he's leaning in the air as he releases the ball. I did not expect that shot to go in whatsoever. That's just the absurd talent level of Jalen Green.
Yeah, he seems to have a couple of those shots. Not every game, but he does seem to have a couple of those shots in his history so far. The one that comes to mind is that insane, the second step back over AD during that Lakers game.
Ball shot, right?
Yeah,
just go all the way over the top.
Arced so high, and you were just like, he just launched it up. It was a prayer shot, and then he drains it. And the more consistent that becomes, the more I'm just like, if we ever need to just chuck up a 3 at the end of the shot clock, we have Jalen Green. It's not a problem. And so, yeah, when he's making those, I feel very comfortable giving him open 3s and, letting him let it rip from wherever he wants. But yeah, when he hit that fadeaway, it was not even like a fadeaway. He was going sideways at, like you said, 45 degrees. And I was just like, he just chucked it up there. Drilled it. He's got a crazy feel for the game, and for the shot, and I think it's really underrated as he gets passed up, described as this volume scorer who just chucks shots. But if he is making them at the clip he's making them at, it's not chucking. He's just a sniper. That's what he is.
And John Lucas, when talking about, Jalen's performance post-game a little bit, he thought Jalen, overall had a good game, but at the same time, he even highlighted the fact he was offensively, Jalen bailed us out a lot tonight. He just, that's just how good he is, kind of alluding to the fact, again, that some of those possessions were not necessarily quality possessions, but Jalen is just so absurdly talented that he was able to salvage something out of nothing, basically. There were 2 things about Jalen's game that really did stand out, though. Again, his ability to get all the way to the basket, and again, initiate contact. That's the big one, right? Is initiate and try to finish through contact, drawing fouls at a decent clip, going downhill towards the rim. So that kind of stood out. And then the other thing was, he's very clearly looking for and working on his ability to throw the lob pass, over the top of the defense. He had one, I think it was in the first half of the game. Maybe I'm misremembering this, but he had one where he tried to connect with Bruno Fernando in the earlier part of the game, completely botched the lob pass. Completely overshot it. Then later in the game, he managed to actually connect on a lob with Bruno, and he still kind of overshot it a little bit, but Bruno was, just timed the jump almost perfectly, where if he had jumped even, I don't know, a 1/10 of a second sooner or later, he probably wouldn't have been able to get a hand on it to finish the lob. But as Jalen works on that part of his game, right, we've seen him take some steps forward as a playmaker, as a facilitator for his teammates. But if he can get to a place where he can get that lob pass to a vertical lob threat like Bruno Fernando on lock, the same way that over time, right, James Harden perfected that lob to Clint Capella, to where he had all the scoring gravity. And then if you were going to double team him, it was an easy free bucket for Capella pretty much at the rim. So as Jalen, realizes that teams are going to send, double and triple teams at him, or give him, a ton of ball pressure, which is exactly what the Toronto Raptors did. They have a lot of length. They defended him with a lot of pressure, right up in the, guys were literally inside Jalen's jersey this game. The amount of defensive pressure that he dealt with in this game was absurd. And for him to still, drop 23 points on relatively good efficiency is promising. But as he works on the playmaking, that is going to be kind of the next elevation of his game, to have a counter for when teams are throwing 2 and 3 guys at him.
Right. Yeah. So that was definitely something that I noticed. KPJ as well was starting to throw those lobs up to Bruno. And I really like that Bruno is kind of filling in that vertical spacing role that we haven't had really in the last. Christian Wood kind of filled that role. He wasn't really, prone to running pick and rolls and then getting into the dunker spot. But Bruno, it seems like it's really a point of emphasis with this team to get him those easy lobs. And that's an easy 2 points. I mean, he only had 4 points. When I checked the box score, I was shocked because it seemed like they were lobbing to him every 5 minutes. And I really like that for Jalen and for KPJ. That's definitely going to develop their playmaking skills. And Jalen, once he starts nailing those passes, that's going to be an easy way for him to, get the pressure off of him, get an easy 2 points for his team. Like you said, he definitely was getting to the free throw line and like handling that contact that they were throwing at him. And like you said, they were inside his jerseys, in his jersey. And I think that added muscle is definitely paying off. He was taking some of the contact better than last year. There were some times where I was like, yeah, he still could have maybe bodied him up a little bit more. But he's definitely taking the contact better. He's getting to the free throw line. He's looking for that lob threat. That's a great, dimension to add to Jalen's game.
Coming up, we're going to talk about the other standouts from this game. First off, Tari Eason just absolutely staking his claim for a rotation spot by dropping yet another 20-point performance. We're going to talk about him. We'll talk about KJ Martin. We're going to talk about Kevin Porter Jr.'s game. All of that and more coming up after a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your football betting info and odds this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis for every single game that you can get your hands on. BetOnline also has you covered for MLB postseason. They've got you covered for NBA, which is right around the corner, gaining full steam as we are navigating through the NBA preseason. And right now, you can take a look at who the odds-on favorites are to win the title this season. The Golden State Warriors still at plus 575, even after the whole Draymond Green Jordan Poole fight video dropped. I'm surprised that the Golden State Warriors haven't taken a hit to their odds totals. I guess it won't shift until something happens between those two. But Boston Celtics at plus 625 right behind them in second place. The Milwaukee Bucks at plus 700 in third place. And then rounding out the top five, you have the Brooklyn Nets and the LA Clippers, both at plus 750 a pop. So for all of that and more, head over to BetOnline to check out all the trends and action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Now it is time for Raj. Can you do me a favor? Give me a drum roll, please. That's like the worst drum roll that I could have asked for. I got this. No, I'm doing an actual drum roll.
I got instruments now.
This is still whack. All right, here we go. I'm gonna drum roll myself here. For your Locked On Rockets player of the game, Tari Eason, who dropped a ridiculous 24 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 8 of 15 shooting, 2 of 4 from long range, 6 of 6 at the free throw line. And this is why, look, I'll tell you right now, this is why plus minus is a flawed stat on like an individual basis. Tari was a -7 in his 25 minutes, but that's because he wound up playing, some of the garbage time, and that's where some of the Raptors actually made a little bit of a push kind of in the fourth quarter, when the benches were cleared, all that stuff. But that is why plus minus sometimes can be a good stat, can be a good indicator of what's going on, but it is inherently a flawed stat because Tari Eason was arguably the Rockets' best player this game, the most important player this game, even maybe more so than Jalen Green. Jalen Green was on fire. He had 17 points in the first half. He cooled down a little bit there in the second half, but had he played a regular amount of minutes instead of his 25 minutes that he got, he probably could have gone 30 plus for sure. But Tari was just sensational, man. I said it early in the game. When he is on the floor, he just makes things happen. And I am at a point, Raj, where I cannot see a way that Tari is not somehow in the Rockets rotation to start the season because he's good. He's ready. He understands the game. And he has this ridiculous nose for the basketball. He just finds rebounds. It's like he's magnetic and the ball just comes to him. He had 5 offensive rebounds to only 3 defensive rebounds. That's not to say he's a bad defensive rebounder. He had the one where he missed the 3 like just straight up bricked the three, and immediately was moving before the ball was even halfway through its arc, I think, and dove in, got the rebound, and then put it up for two. I joked that he was like stat padding his rebounding stats and he wanted the layup anyways, but and John Lucas had some insane praise for him after the game too. He called him a better version of Dennis Rodman. Look, Lucas is OG. Lucas is the OG, right? Lucas has seen a lot of basketball in his lifetime. So for him to come out and call Jabari Smith Jr. or to comp Jabari Smith Jr. to David Robinson and then to comp Tari to a better Dennis Rodman, that is incredibly high praise from one of the better basketball minds that we have operating in the business today.
Yeah. So I think initially when I heard I saw that there was a comparison of Tari to Dennis Rodman and Jabari to David Robinson. And I was like, that's a, at best premature comparison. But then I heard it was John Lucas saying it. And I was like, okay, if someone knows, John Lucas would know. He's the one you would be like, is the old head who would get mad at that comparison, but he would know. He sees these guys, putting in the work. He sees what they do in and day out. So if someone's going to be able to make that comparison, I would feel like it's John Lucas who can make that fair comparison. But yeah, Tari Eason, oh my God. Like you said, that box score at -7 is clearly an indication of, just who he was playing with, the rotation that he was playing with, and sort of the overall team performance on the court just happened to be poor in the minutes that he was playing. But just looking at that,
just pour in the minutes at the end of the game. That was my point about it being
finishing the game
because the minutes. I think at one point when I looked up, like he was like an insane plus minus, like in the first half of the game or whatever when they did actually kind of make their run and make their push. But it swayed at the end of the game when he checked back in. So
yeah, it seemed like that third string Raptors crew started hitting more threes than the starting unit was. So yeah, the numbers swayed a little bit by the end, but if you watch that game, you saw the effect that he had on the game. Dude is like a heat-seeking missile for the ball when it's up in the air. And I don't know how he just happens to be in the right place at the right time so often. But that's like, I feel that to me is like the sixth sense you can't teach a player. And they just kind of innately have, which then immediately made me think of his pre-draft, description of being a low basketball IQ player. I'm just like, where is he a low basketball IQ player? The dude has made like the right play 98% of the time, and he's making passes. He's throwing lobs to Jalen after making the steal. Like, you could not ask for a player to be more of a example of the defense leading into transition offense goal that the Rockets are going for right now. He fits in perfectly. He's going to be that Josh Christopher guy who just forces his way into the rotation, because there's no way he's spending time in the G League unless they just want to stack up a G League MVP trophy or something. He needs to be with the Rockets in Houston at Toyota Center.
Look, if Tari goes down to the G League, he's going to average 40, 15, and 15. It's going to be absolutely absurd. No, look,
I'd be fine seeing that, but he needs to play with the Rockets.
I think it's hilarious, right? Because again, the pre-draft stuff about Tari's IQ was just, I don't know if that was like intentional. Maybe that was like, covertly leaked to like drop his value. Maybe it was like a big brain like Rafael Stone move. Right? It's like leak the news about like the IQ concerns to like get him down at 17 for the Rockets. Shout out to Mama Eason, who goes on Twitter post game and tweets out, "Who IQ?" ? Like, that's just, I am here for the pettiness. I am here for the vindication, Eason. All of that. But yeah, no, Tari, just his impact on the game is absurd. And also, I do think that between the two of them, right? We talked about Jalen Green segment 1. We're leading segment 2 with Tari. Between the two of them, they had what was to me the play of the game, where Tari got the steal, gets out in transition. Jalen is gunning for the rim, and Tari throws the lob up, and Jalen is able to flush it home. Just an absolute beautiful transition bucket. And that's exactly what this Rockets team wants to do, right? Is they want to be disruptive defensively. They want to be be the aggressors defensively is one of the words that I heard like Jae'Sean Tate use, right? They want to come out and be the aggressor. And I think they absolutely achieved that in this game. Even though the Raptors also have their own way of like setting the tone defensively, they have a lot of length. They were, again, the ball pressure was absurd. The Rockets felt like the better defensive team in this one. And a large part of that has to do with the fact that they were able to trot out so many guys who feel like at this point, very plus defenders, right? Bruno Fernando, very physical, good interior defender. Garuba, Swiss Army nice defensively, switchable. The starting lineup with KJ Martin and Jae'Sean Tate, I was a little like sketched about it with the spacing and whatnot, but they made it work. Yep. Jae'Sean had a really solid game in this one. Let me make sure I got his stats right. 7 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 of 4 shooting, hit his only 3, went 2 of 4 to charity stripe. Yeah, 100%. All right, 100%. That's the only
100%.
Who cares about the volume? 100% shooting. That's fantastic. Kind of a very Draymond-esque stat line, if you will, from Jae'Sean, but his impact on the game, you could feel it, right? The defensive intensity, the tone that he was kind of setting, and at times it felt like he was kind of shouldering some of the playmaking load a little bit, maybe offensively, kind of getting guys into some of their spots, and he had a couple really really nice looking dimes in this one, and then KJ Martin, again filling in the other starting spot, again with the Rockets missing 3 of their starters in this one. KJ had a really, really solid game to the point where I actually put him in the running for potentially Locked On Player of the Game, Locked On Rockets Player of the Game. I was like, well, I need a third player, and I was kind of in between KJ and KPJ, and I settled on KJ because he finished with 13 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 4 of 9 shooting, 2 of 4 from long range, 3 of 4 at the free throw line. That is a really impressive all-around game for KJ, and I know it's kind of ambiguous with KJ and Jae'Sean both in the starting lineup together. Who's the 3, who's the 4? But to me, this just shows like KJ can play the wing. He can play the 3 spot with regularity moving forward. And that to me is really exciting for the possible different permutations, lineups, all that stuff that the Rockets can do with those kinds of guys, in addition to Tari and Jabari and all the defensive versatility that they have on this team now.
Yeah, KJ and Jae'Sean, they both had not the, box scores that pop out at you, but watching them run and enforce their will on the Raptors while the Raptors were on offense, that defense in the first quarter was solid. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Tari was the first one off the bench.
Technically, it was Garrison Mathews was the first sub, but it was like one dead ball later. Tari checked in, so yeah.
So yeah, the defense in that first quarter between our forward rotation was amazing. They were imposing their will on the Raptors, and it showed. And yeah, like KJ, I thought he picked up a couple of ticky-tack fouls. The refs were on some questionable, whistles, but KJ's performance. It just made me a little nervous for his standing with the team, because now I'm just like, I don't want him going anywhere. I want him to stick right here, give him minutes. He's playing really well. He had that dunk that from it was like a foot past the free throw line. He came in flying. I just want more of that. I don't know how I forgot that KJ can get that high up, but he got up there for that dunk. That's all I want to see from KJ. He played solid defense. He was getting rebounds, and yeah, he was knocking his shots down. Speaking of, you mentioned Bruno Fernando. I just wanted to point out Bruno had 10 rebounds, which you could tell he was battling out there for those rebounds, which is not something that, I was expecting from him. I think when he got that contract, I was kind of like, Bruno's a solid option, but, not the guy I would pick to give 4 years to. Great decision in hindsight. That guy is out there battling like it's, the playoffs to get those rebounds. And I love to see that already. He's making everybody else's life out there easier.
Bruno gives a level of, I think, again, physicality and athleticism at the 5 spot that neither Sengun or Garuba give. And that's not to say that those guys can't be physical. It's just, again, the Rockets basically have like a three-headed dragon at the 5 spot, and all three guys are so different in their play styles, different in what they bring to the table, and we got to look at Bruno being in the starting spot tonight. And even though I don't envision him starting a lot of games, right? Obviously if Alp's there, he's the starter, but being able to go from Alp, who's a bit more, a playmaking force, put the ball in his hands, let him create for others, to Bruno, who's more your traditional big rim runner, vertical threat, all of that. Having those different dimensions within a lineup or within a set of lineups will do wonders for this Rockets team moving forward, to have the flexibility, the versatility to try different things and to unlock different things for KPJ, for Jalen, all that good stuff. Coming up, we'll have final thoughts on this game. We'll touch on a couple of the guys who they struggled a little bit in this game. Daishen did not look great. Things maybe cleaned up a little bit in the second half, but did not look great in the first half. Garrison Mathews also, not the best of games from Gary Bird. We're going to talk about those guys and more coming up in just one moment. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. That's Apple, Spotify, Google, the Odyssey app. Wherever you get your pods, you can listen to this show. We're also on YouTube, where, Raj, what is our mantra for YouTube?
For the team, for the pod, for the algorithm.
I mean, it was close. You lose some points for not getting it quite right.
I don't memorize nothing. I just leave the comments.
Okay, all right. We'll try that one more time. It's for the house, for the team, for the algorithm. So commenting on YouTube helps out a ton. Yeah, you get a participation.
Partial
trophy.
credit. Partial credit.
All right. So before we talk about the kind of the two guys who struggled this game for the Rockets, and Daishen, Garrison Mathews, Kevin Porter Jr., even though you look at his stat line and 15 points, 4 of 10 shooting, 1 of 3 from long range, 6 of 8 at the free throw line. I did like his aggressiveness in getting to the free throw line. That felt good for KPJ to see him getting some free throws, right? He had the one where he went up for... he cocked it back. He was going up for like a monster slam, went up with, ill intentions and got fouled, got absolutely hammered and made it to the free throw line. He also had the 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. Even though he only had the 1 assist, I'm feeling like KPJ's just control and impact on the game has felt better. It feels like the Rockets are getting into their sets quicker offensively. They're moving the basketball as a team significantly better. They finished with 22 assists in this one. To me, anything north of 20 assists is pretty solid. It's not quite the 32 that they had against the Spurs, but they were missing some of their weapons in E.G., Jabari. They're missing one of their, primary playmakers in Alperen and Sengun, so it's understandable that their assist total will be a little bit lower. But overall, I was, I don't want to say impressed with KPJ's game, but I felt like he had a solid overall game, despite the numbers not being fantastic in the box score.
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's tough to make that leap to impressed with his game tonight, but you can definitely see he's more calm. He's more in control. He doesn't seem to be doing as many, Kyrie-esque type handles, moves. That was clunky. But yeah, he seems to be a little more in control, and he's definitely attempting to play make a lot more. That dunk, like you mentioned, I think it was right after he missed the layup, right?
He
kind of a gimme layup.
Smoked the layup and then came back down, and immediately he saw the window. He juked for gave a quick little hezzy on the perimeter and got right past his man. It was like, all right, I'm elevating, and it just couldn't convert.
It was exactly what I was hoping he would do as the play was unfolding. I was like, just go to the rim, dunk it, just slam it home, erase the memory of that blown layup. He came down with it, and he tried to end somebody's career. He got fouled, but, he tried, and it was close. But yeah, his playmaking overall in the last 2 games, I've definitely been satisfied with the progression that we've seen from him. I think people... are really looking at KPJ with taking a close look at him this year in particular to see if he's going to make that jump into being like a true playmaking point guard. And I kind of see that coming, and it's got me a little excited. But yeah, he shot pretty well too. He was 4 of 10. Okay, not great, but I'm satisfied with his playmaking. So that's what I'm looking at. We know the guy can score.
And the shooting from inside the arc, decent enough, three of 7 inside the arc. It does kind of feel like he's getting back to, and he talked about this a little bit post game, understanding where the spacing is and how teams are defending. And so for him to kind of be able to get to some of those mid-range shots, those little mid-range pull-ups of his, can be helpful for, kind of unlocking the rest of his game. So it's kind of nice seeing him kind of roll that in, but he's being a very willing passer, a very willing part of, just letting the rest of the offense develop naturally, right? Whereas, it's not just him taking over and it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to take all these shots, right? No, Jalen is very clearly the number one option. And then Scoot is kind of like really being selective in when he tries to get his versus really just letting the ball kind of flow and everybody kind of touches the ball on a given possession. It feels like the ball movement, again, is just leaps and bounds better this year for the Rockets than it was last year. Also, I lied at the top of this. Go ahead. No,
to that point, there was one play. I think it was, I want to say second quarter, but I might be wrong, where Scoot was on the floor and he got caught sort of on an island, at the elbow, and he wasn't close enough to the 3-point line for a step back. And there were enough defenders between him and the basket that he wasn't going to make a drive to the bucket. And he sat there for like a solid second or two looking around the court just to make sure nobody else was wide open before he pulled up for the jump shot. And he sunk it too. And that really impressed me because it tells me that he's not just seeing the game as I'm open, let me take the shot. He's seeing the game as, okay, the defense is off somehow. Let me see if it's broken anywhere else to take advantage of it in a, more advantageous way. And he didn't see that, so he took the shot. I thought that was really good. It's showing maturity from him. And that's what I like to see.
Yeah, no, great. Again, some great court awareness, and it just the feel for the game. I think or his feel for the game as a point guard, as the leader on the floor, feels like it's getting to a much better place than it was at last year. What I was gonna say is I lied at the top of the segment. We're also gonna talk about Josh Christopher, because how can we not talk about Jacob a little bit here? Had 10 points, had 2 rebounds, 3 assists. And when I say, man, some of the sauce that he had on like the dime to Tari Eason for 3, well, he had the behind the back as well. But I was talking about like when he dimed up Tari for 3, he drove it in he was on the left wing. Tari was, in the slot on the right wing. And Josh drives the ball in, goes between his legs, and kind of looks like he almost fumbled the ball for a second.
I thought he lost it.
And it kind of looked like he lost it in the moment. And then he flips it out to Tari, kind of like, again, the defense kind of collapsed on him a little bit, flips it out to Tari, and Tari just drains the 3 from the perimeter. I thought that was just, again, like in that moment, I don't know if it was intentional or what, or if he did like kind of lose his handle and just tried to make something out of nothing. But he was fantastic. And the one that you were wanting to highlight?
Oh, no, I was just saying, yeah, there was that, he made a pass. I can't remember. He was somewhere on the 3-point line at the top of the screen. And he whipped it behind his back to someone open in the corner. I can't remember the details, but it was just, you don't expect that from Josh Christopher. I've always considered him more of a shooting guard than a point guard. He has been described as a combo guard, but I don't think anybody's looking for him to take over a playmaking role. So when I see those flashes and that capability from him, it gets me really excited, just because so many of our, young guys have so many different abilities that they're still developing and they're still growing. And so, yeah, Josh Christopher is a great example of that. He's still, developing his full skill set. We have no idea what he's going to look like in 3 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for him, coming off the bench, right? He played, 19, 20 minutes, being able to get like a consistent, like, I don't know. I could see him in the realm of like, 12 to 15 points off the bench, kind of like that sixth man, whatever, but 12 to 15 and like 3 and 4 like boards, 3 and 4 dimes, I think is a very reasonable stat line to kind of expect from him on any given night. And then there are going to be the nights where he just pops off and has a huge game. 2 guys who did not have huge games. Perfect segue. Garrison Mathews and Daishen Nix. And man, like, I've been pulling for Daishen Nix. I do think there's talent there. But when I tell you, like, there were so many mistakes made in this game, offensively, defensively, and I don't know if it kept compounding because like it just kept getting worse and it like was snowball effect and it just got out of hand. But look, defensively, there was one play, and I think it was Gary Trent Jr. who like drove the ball, or no, I think it was Delano Banton who had the ball like right, like not quite under the rim, but like basically right on the baseline with nobody, just Daishen Nix in between him and the rim. I think it was like on a leak out or something. And he just shoulder checked Daishen off of him. And I'm like, dude, like Daishen is 6'5" and like built. Like you cannot let a guy shove you around like that when you're built the way Daishen Nix is built. So that was like one of the many red flags that I unfortunately saw in Daishen's play. But then he had another one where he had Tari Eason under the basket, like completely wide open, and just botched a pass to him. On the inverse of that, Tari had a play where he got secured a defensive rebound and then threw a beautiful like outlet bounce pass to Daishen Nix. Don't know how Tari threaded the needle on that to Daishen. Daishen gets the pass, goes up to slam it home, and gets blocked from behind. And I'm like, dude, like that was your gimme bucket. And so just there were a bunch of little mistakes throughout the game that when you look at the entire body of work, you're just like, this was a really, really rough all-around performance from Daishen Nix. I didn't feel like he had good control over the game, especially in that first half where things kind of started to fall apart with that second unit, kind of into the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. And a big part of that, I think, was unfortunately Daishen Nix.
Yeah, he seemed to be having a pretty off night. The shots weren't falling, and he did seem to be making a couple of unfortunate mistakes. I think there was an inbounds play too that got ugly when he tried to throw it into Josh Christopher, got intercepted. But yeah, just you want
there was one he got 5 second violation on another inbounds play. Like it's not a whole lot of good coming out of Daishen's game, unfortunately, in this one. 4 turnovers for Daishen Nix. So 5 points. 5 points, 1 of 10 shooting, 0 of 2 from long range, 3 of 6 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. Again, things maybe got a little bit better in the second half, not a whole ton, like not enough to erase the sins of the first half is the problem. And again, the biggest issue with Daishen's game is, look, you can be a bowling ball, you can drive, and you can be physical, and you can get to the rim and draw fouls, but if you can't hit your free throws when you get to the free throw line, like what good is it serving, right? Going 1 for 2 every time at the line is just atrocious. You got to be a better free throw shooter than that. If a big part of your game is driving and initiating contact and being that big physical guard, then you got to be able to hit your free throws.
Yeah, Daishen, you expect him at this point to be a little bit more in control than he was. It looked like he was a little out of sorts. And yeah, like you said, if he's going to take on that sort of driving, role to the basket, then he's got to be able to convert when he gets fouled. And that seems like something that would already have been, emphasized to him. So it's a little unfortunate to see it didn't convert in game. I'm hoping he can turn it around. I like Daishen Nix. There's definitely some pressure on him now with Ty, in the shadows. And Ty came in at the end of the game and looked good. So Daishen's definitely got to step it up to match. He can't keep having performances like this one.
Yeah, no. And then the other guy, Garrison Mathews, who, look, Gary Bird got 5 minutes in that first preseason opener. Everybody was like, "Oh wow, Gary Bird only 5," and we found out later, knee injury. That's what he got pulled from that. We didn't know that at the time. He got more burn in this one. 14 minutes played, but 0 of 3 from the floor. Defensively didn't look great. Offensively, again, didn't do anything. Like, oh wow, he has the Tony Snell stat line: 0s across the board.
Oh wow,
and two fouls. That's
14 minutes.
I think that's literally the Tony Snell stat line. Like, I don't know if the minutes and the shot attempts line up, but the 0s across the board and then like the 2 fouls, that is definitely the Tony Snell.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, look.
Boy.
And here's the thing, right, is I thought that Gary Bird might actually get the starting nod in this game because of the spacing, because of the shooting he provides. It doesn't matter when they're A, moving the ball as well as they did in this game, and then B, when they're defending as well as they are. You can just rely on your defense, and spacing be damned offensively. If you're going to be able to be that disruptive on the defensive end, get out in transition, get the athletes running, get those easy transition buckets, And then subsequently in the half court, I do think they did a fantastic job. Guys like Tate, KJ, Josh a little bit, Tari. Guys did a great job of just moving without the basketball, cutting, and again, crashing the offensive glass, getting those second and sometimes third chance opportunities to finish off a play offensively. You don't necessarily need a Garrison Mathews out there, if he's not hitting shots. Like, I mean, what else is he providing at this point if he's not sinking threes? And he had a handful of opportunities to hit something, couldn't make anything happen. So not a great night from Garrison Mathews.
Yeah, Gary Bird, Mullet Bird, Dirty Bird, he didn't have any impact, honestly, on the box score or in the game. But it's worrying when he goes 0 for 3. You'd hope he hits at least one, especially with the looks he was getting. But yeah, if he's not going to be able to bring it on defense and he's not scoring, he's just taking up minutes on the floor and at this point, the roster is so stacked. There's guys you want out there either for development or for performance that you need to get on the floor. And so, yeah, I'm hoping he can turn it around. I'm low-key a Gary Bird supporter. I'm not going to give him MVP chance like last year, but that's reserved for Boban this year.
I was going to say, who got MVP chance? Hey, man, look, Toyota Center, Boban, like, I thought I heard what I thought I heard was we want Boban chance in Toyota Center, which I was like, I think I hear that, but I'm not 100% sure. And so when I was getting ready to tweet, like, we want Boban chance have broken out at Toyota Center. And then I was like, wait, I don't know 100% if that's what I'm hearing. So I'm going to say, I think I heard we want Boban. And then
it was
sure
enough,
on
the broadcast.
Dude, he comes up to the scorer's table and he's sitting at the scorer's table and everybody's going insane. And then he takes off the warm-ups, is getting ready. He hasn't even actually checked into the game yet because he's waiting for the free throw to happen. As soon as he peels the warm-ups off, everybody in the crowd loses it. The moment he touches the basketball, Toyota Center was the loudest I've heard it in months. Like, everybody exploded every moment that he touches the ball. And it happened in the opener too. It's just like he would touch the ball and then it would gradually, like, everybody like, oh, and then he would do anything with it. And then the crowd would just erupt. Like, it was like this slow build. And then the eruption whenever he would like get a rebound or drop a bucket in, whatever. So Boban is now, shout out to the podfather himself, Ben Dubose, who dubbed Boban the new victory cigar. So it used to be Bobby Brown was the human victory cigar.
Bobby Brown has passed the torch to Boban.
Yeah, the torch has been passed officially to Boban Marjanovic, the new 7'4" human victory cigar. So when the Boban is broken out, the Rockets have either won the game or lost the game in terrible fashion, because I'm sure we're going to see some of those this year. But
Bobby to Bobby.
Bobby to Bobby. I love it. Oh my goodness. That I think is a beautiful way to close this one out. Raj, you know the drill. Let everybody know where they can track you down at.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Reezy Season, ReezySZN. I just want to talk hoops. So yeah, that's all I do. So just hit me up on Twitter. Let's talk. Go Rockets.
And that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Rockets. As always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google, the Odyssey app, free and available on all podcast platforms. Again, we are also on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Locked on Rockets. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked on Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.